expectations, continuing that along, right? We kind of also at the same time, we're jumping around a little bit, but that's what we do.
We're talking about realtors.
I feel like we wing everyone.
The old fake it till you make it.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, I think we're good at winging it with some Coles notes before, right? So we always do a little bit of preparation.
For sure.
Days in advance, weeks in advance, our whole life. Like when we started in real estate, everything you learned before you started in real estate, Andrew, is all you needed to know to become a successful realtor,
I learned a lot before I ever got into real estate, and that's what brought me into real estate to begin with, actually. So it was, I basically grew up with the idea of I wanted to be a real estate investor, and I didn't want to have to clock in 9 to 5. That was my dream almost growing up, because I had, there was a family friend who, they had all the toys, they had the satellite dish, in the early 90s when nobody had a satellite dish. And, it was like the satellite dish was the size of your house, of course, right? They had 100 channels when everybody else had 25 channels. The daughter rode horseback, did horseback riding. The son had a go-kart, right? I'm like, I want to do what they do, right? What does Mr. Briscoe do? And found out, well, he owns investment properties and people pay him rent, and he just manages the property. And I'm like, where's the hard grind, clock in 9 to 5, commute back and forth? And that wasn't part of the show. I mean, not to say they didn't work hard, right? Managing the properties and fix them up, et cetera. But that was it. Early age, man, that the seed was planted. That real estate was a huge part of my future.
Yeah, for myself as well too. I mean, I think back to, having aspirations as a child, dreams of becoming a professional athlete. And lo and behold, that didn't work. The family business was in restoration and construction. So growing up in that, I saw my dad do very well for himself, and he bought a lot of properties. And I think of one of my, growing up in Oakville, one family took me in, the Carly residence, bless her heart, Irene Carly. She was my first real estate agent. She passed away of cancer about 4 or 5 years ago. But seeing her by herself, raising several children, and she would do well just from going out and helping people buy and sell homes. And when I was young, I worked with her a little bit, just in terms of like an assistant role, to kind of learn from her. And I knew at some point in my life, I definitely wanted to get involved in real estate, maybe more from a developer standpoint, but also understanding. I think one of the things that we're blessed to do is we get to continue our education throughout our careers, right? Betterment, not only in understanding about real estate, understanding about all the ins and outs of investing, the art of financing, but there's so many different loopholes and things. Like, you and I, we're going to talk today a lot about health and mental wellness and all this stuff. And it's like, it's all a learning process, right? It's all these things that we go through for betterment, and hopefully to share, to give back to others. If you help enough people, you'll help yourself, right?
Yeah, you know what? One of the things you had chatted about, you kind of mentioned just before we got started here, was expectations. And I think that there is, expectations is crucial / key, right? In all walks of life. And we talk about health and wellness, et cetera. I think there's a big pushback right now from, the mass populace of, the ultra fit, as if that is, sure, it's the goal. I mean, I think we all, if we could, take that magic pill, would want to be able to, have perfect health and be fit and be, muscular and look good, have that beach body, so to speak. But the reality is that not everybody has maybe that drive potentially, or maybe not everybody has the time or the means, or maybe some people have to work a heck of a lot harder for it just because of body type and metabolism. I'm going to say that I've been blessed with a gene that allows me to eat probably more than I really should eat. And whether it's an efficient gene or a very inefficient gene, but the fact of the matter is I burn through calories just sitting here, right? But the expectations, can go anywhere from, what are your expectations from, for your health and your wellness, your wealth? What are your expectations from, your when you're buying a home or selling a home? What's, based off of the market? What are your expectations when you have been faced with a new situation like a COVID lockdown, and you're now, you have you're blessed to be working from home and not having to do that hour commute each way potentially, but it also brings on, a just different level of stressors, if you will, of working from home all the time and juggling the kids, and the kids are home, and we're all dealing with that, right?
No, so, I love what you're saying about expectations. And I mean, expectations, when I think of that word, it's a lot to do with pleasing ourselves. And there's so many people out there that have these expectations of like, well, it's almost like I need someone else to make me happy, or I need someone else to do this. It's like, there's a lot of people out there like listening, hopefully, to this, that they don't love who they are as a person, and they're going through a lot of mental anguish. And it's like, just remind yourself that you're amazing who you are, and what are you doing right, not what are you doing wrong. And I think as a society, we're all too hard on ourselves. I've struggled with my weight for a majority of my life. I'm 25 pounds heavier than I want to be right now. I've just hired a coach that I've worked with in the past. His name's Dan Go, the weight loss ninja. I highly recommend him, but I can look at a bag of Doritos and put on 3-4 pounds, and it'll go right to my butt and my gut, right? So at the end of the day, I think pleasing ourselves, finding something that is going to give you that self-care, being a little bit more selfish in the sense of what is going to make you happy, doing something for you. If you give to yourself first, you're going to be able to give to others a lot more selflessly, right? When we feel like our time gets consumed, and it's like you just want to carve out a little bit of something for yourself. So could be going for that walk that you went on this morning. I jumped in my pool for 10-15 minutes and did a little underwater meditation. It could be going for a bike ride. It could be just doing a little gardening, or something that gives you a feeling of accomplishment. Making your bed first thing in the morning, right? Like, it could just be something so little that gives you that hop in your step.
I love that you said making your bed, because I am 40 years old, soon to be 41. It's creeping up on me here, but I only started making my bed this year, like 2021, this year, right? I don't know why, but I never made my bed. And I legit, one day, and I can't tell you why, I got up, I looked at the bed, and I'm like, that's messy. And I made it. And I have been making it every day since. Like, I don't know what happened. I can't tell you. Maybe because finally someone wasn't yelling at me telling me to make my bed. So I'm kind of stubborn like that. When someone tells me what to do, I pretty much do the opposite just out of spite. Right? So finally, it wasn't like somebody nagging over my shoulder telling me to make my bed. One day I just woke up and I made my bed, it's that very minute but significant win every day that I've accomplished something, right? You talked about this morning about, I shared with you that the last week, maybe 2 weeks, you've just been kind of feeling kind of down, like a lot of stressors that I've maybe put on myself, some goals that I want to achieve, just life. Again, everybody's in the same situation, having the kids at home, doing virtual school. It adds a level of complexity, especially when my youngest, who just turned 9, just a few days ago, he just will not sit in front of the computer, right? He'll do it for like 5 minutes and then he's off walking around, right? It's just not the best system for his type of personality. And some kids can do it and just some people can't. And that's, it is what it is, right? But that kind of goes back to, your comment, and then I hijacked it, of expectations, right? Where, maybe just, lower your expectations a little bit with certain ones. My daughter, she can sit in front of the screen and she can do her stuff and she can pay attention, and yeah, she doodles and stuff like that, but it's okay. And then, that's one, but she's good. She gets all of her homework done, right away, etc. She's up to task. And then my youngest son, he will not sit in front of the computer. He doesn't do his homework. He's well behind on everything. And, I'm not giving the guy a pass, but at the same time, my expectations are different for them. Right. And so it doesn't stress me out as much, because it's kind of, not that I didn't give up, but it is what it is. You know what I mean?
But that's great parenting. That right there is, you have to customize it for each child. And it's like, some of them need more discipline. Some of them need more encouragement and support. And, tough love is not going to work all of the time. It's sometimes it's what you don't say that is so much more powerful than what you do say, or your body language or your demeanor. And for all the parents out there, I've never had children. I hope one day I do. I've had a lot of children in my life, but it's sometimes you just got to walk away, right? You got to go do something for yourself and press your reset button, because damn, it can be tough. I see so many parents out there that they have so much love and so much passion for their children. And, sometimes the best thing you can do is just bite your tongue and walk away and then revisit it. Right. So I can only imagine what people like yourself are going through, Andrew. Like, maybe I'm on the opposite spectrum with too much isolation, I'm overworking, isolation, like that life balance. When we talked before we came onto the show, and there's no such thing as hijacking a topic. That's what we do. We're co-hosts. We're here to help each other have fun with conversation. Seasonal anxiety disorder, right? Like, the weather recently has been overcast and blah. It's been shit. Let's call it how it is. Excuse my French. I know we're trying to keep this PG, but at the end of the day, like, when you get those 4, 5, 6 days in a row where you feel like you're in Seattle or in Vancouver, seasonal anxiety disorder sets in. And, you need that vitamin D. You need to do something to get a kickstart, to get a W, right? And doing something for yourself. Making your bed is not doing something for yourself, but, going for that walk, going and doing a jiu-jitsu class or an online yoga class, and things are going to open up, guys. I'm getting my shot on Monday. I'm pretty stoked about that.
And a boy.
So it's pretty cool that, we've made it, guys. It's a year of torture, and hopefully it also gives us a lot of newfound appreciation and respect for how good we really have it.
We do. That's, I could go squirreling off on that topic as well, but I'm gonna stay on topic a little bit, just about the overcast, the cloudiness, etc. Right. Today it's a beautiful day. The sun is out again. It's the weather, the temperature is supposed to go up to the teens, etc.
Birds are chirping. Right. So, I literally, this morning, got up, got out of bed, made my bed, got dressed and walked out the door. And I went for about a 45-minute walk by myself. And not that I didn't want anybody with me by any stretch, but it was just, I needed to get outside. And even, and I think that one of the issues that we all often face, with the working from home element of life right now is that that isolation that you're talking about, right? The cabin fever almost, right? Like, there's days where, and I don't realize it, it's certainly not intentional, but I don't leave the house all day, right? Because I get up, I do my kind of morning thing. I go and I hit the gym. I do my workout, of course, inside at the house, come upstairs, and then I'm in meetings. I'm on phone calls. I'm planning. I'm prepping material. I'm doing market research, right? I'm in front of the computer all day long. And then the kids are off school, and then it's okay, well, let's get, snacks, blah, 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 and whatever happens. And all of a sudden it's bedtime. Right. And then, you watch a show, etc. I'm like, I didn't leave the house all day. And come to think of it, I didn't leave the house yesterday either. And then, I don't know, I get that headache, and I'm just like, so I needed to get outside. And I think that is, I think that's important. I went for a walk the other day, and it was raining. It was kind of drizzly, but you know what? I threw the raincoat on and
still got outside, and even though it was drizzly and overcast and blah, I still enjoyed the smell of being outside, right? The fresh air. I think that's important for people, right?
Absolutely.
And I think that there's going to be some people out there that maybe are more sensitive to it, and more sensitive to it as in like they might naturally do that, like they're just outdoorsy people, and so it's just like it's a kind of a go-to type of response. But at the same time, I think there's other people that I think I might fall in that category where I enjoy being outside, but like I said, like 2 days can go by and I didn't realize I didn't go outside. Then all of a sudden I need it. Right? I think you need to get outside. I think you need to have that break to just, break it up a bit.
I think of when I was younger and every day I'd get my blood moving, right? I'd always be doing something athletic, something sporty. And I know now, like it'll be like 4, 5, 6 o'clock in the afternoon. And, we get busy. I'd love to talk another day about a sermon I did where I went from being stressed to busy to thriving. But right now the problem is that we're busy, and having that mentality of thriving where you're healthy and you're having that balance, and you're not feeling overwhelmed by all these things that you have to do. And I think like one of the things that I'm really working on right now is more time management, where it's carving out time so I have a better quality of life. I have better life balance, blocking time for like our podcast. I now look forward to every Thursday morning. I get to hang out with a buddy. We get to have a great chat and we get to kind of share it, right? And we're giving back. So more contribution. I'm going to be starting in 2024. Going to be going to Africa after our last show on the dreams. I put together a small committee and we're going to start getting it planned. So it's still years away.
But that's good that you that brought that back to the surface, right? And got you kind of like, you know what? I forgot about that. I should get that done.
And hopefully somebody else being pushed back a year. It's not going to be 2023. It's going to be 2024. But it gave me a reason to reach out to some amazing people in my life, some clients that are going to go on. And we already have like a small group of like 4 or 5. Hopefully it'll be 25, 30, 40. And I want it to be all ages. But I mean, having things to look forward to, like you and I talked about vacations, right? Having something, going for a hike, going for a forest bath, right? I actually love the rain. I guess it's my English blood, but I love it when you get like, don't get me wrong. I don't like the rain 5, 6, 7 days in a row, but I remember last year, I was the only one on the golf course, torrential downpour. I was up in Lowville and it was just coming down buckets. And I looked up at the gods and I'm just like, bring it on. What you got? Right. And it was amazing. I'm just this torrential downpour. My buddies think I'm crazy, but I was having the time of my life. And it was, just something like that. Like it was an out of body experience where, enjoy the elements, the high winds, the rain, hopefully we're not going to get any more snow this year. Had enough of the white stuff, but get outside and enjoy life. Right. So
a nice warm rain is actually quite nice. Like, I remember growing up, there was a few really, really good rainstorms. Like it was just a sheet. You could almost not see the other side of the street. And my sister and I ran out and kind of danced in the street and jumped in the puddles and all that kind of stuff, right? Because it was just coming down. But it was warm. I mean, it was like, I guess it was the middle of the summer, so it was probably a 25-degree day, and it probably dropped to like 19 because of the rain. But at the same time, it's a nice warm rain, right? And that's
embrace cold rain. There's nothing wrong with cold rain. It's refreshing. It's exhilarating. Come on, it's all a mindset thing.
Okay, true. But I mean, if you're running around in a t-shirt, I mean, okay, if you're in a raincoat and it's pouring buckets, okay, fine, and it's cold, okay, and you're dressed for it.
You dress for it.
I'll give you that. But I'm just saying,
I dressed for it.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, if it's a midsummer rainstorm, and
it was lovely.
It pours down, yeah, for sure, absolutely. The sleet, right? The sleet's not so good.
No, definitely not. No, nothing worse than cold feet or cold ears or all your extremities, right? So,
absolutely. Expectations, continuing that along, right? We kind of also at the same time, we're jumping around a little bit, but that's what we do.
We
We're
are the
talking about
rambling realtors.
talking about the real estate market a little bit right now, right? Of course, at its core, this is a real estate show, and naturally we kind of typically come back to it, but we're seeing that oddness in the real estate market, the kind of the ebb and flow, where some stuff is selling and some stuff isn't. Some houses are getting 10 offers on it, and another house has one, that's very similar to that house. Townhouses are selling but semis aren't, or vice versa, or for a while there, or just neighborhood to neighborhood, right? Like, I think for one reason, I can't say for sure, but I think for one reason or another, I think people's attentions get pulled from one area to another based off of where the prices are potentially, right? If maybe one area gets kind of like overheated, people might look to another area that the prices maybe aren't quite as crazy until that area catches up or something like that, right? So for those of you that are, in the buying stage, I think I would say, be patient. Stuff will come up, right? And understand, again, go back to your expectations. Don't expect, I guess $1 million house to come down to 500,000, but maybe you can, if you're patient, you can, and if something's right on the threshold there, if you're right on the threshold of being able to afford something, or you just keep getting outbid, be patient. And I think we might be seeing a bit of a slowing, potentially. Again, June 1st is kind of around the corner where the new stress test comes into play. That might slow the market. We can't say with certainty, but that might just slow the market a little bit, where, some of that buyer frenzy that was pushed earlier, it might have been all the June buyers got pushed to May, April, right? And then you have the natural cycle of very crazy spring, and the summers typically slow down. So
I'm going to disagree with you right now.
Okay,
in terms of the market. Now, one thing I'll say to everybody out there listening is that it's a process, right? So before you get all caught up on what it's going to go for, or this or that, let's just go out and look at a couple nice homes and see if you actually like the house. Like, before we started our podcast today, there was a call that came in. You were listening to me, right? They're like, well, where do you think it's going to go, and what's going to happen, and the hysteria of getting all caught up, and how many offers are there going to be, and what's it going to go for? No. What did you hear what I said there? I'm like, what I said is, well, let's just start with going to check out the home and seeing if you like the house. And then I'll prepare you for everything else that's going to happen after that. And a big part of our job, we're the navigators, we're the advisors, is taking them down there. In terms of, I'm going to say, Andrew, the opposite. Don't wait. Like, get started. It's a process. I disagree that the markets are going to be slowing down. I think that the stress tests, what I've seen in the last 4 or 5 days, I just had a small townhome in North Oakville sell for 140,000 over. I've got multiple listings on multiple showings on a brand new listing we just put on a Bronte, a beautiful executive townhome. Things are, busy right now. For the clients out there saying, I don't want to get in competition, well, what's your alternative? Your alternative is you're not moving, right? So we can find you opportunities where you might only be in competition with 1 or 2 or 3 other offers, or maybe we luck out and there's 6 or 7 offer dates that night and we find you the right home. But just like anything, it's a process. And, we've talked a lot about this in previous weeks. There's segments in the market that are hot, that are segments in the market that things are moving hand over fist. And there's other areas where things are happening a little bit slower. So, depending on schools, everything, location, how turnkey the home is, I think at the end of the day, things are moving quickly.
Yeah, I mean, so whether we disagree or not about like where the real estate market's going, I mean, that's fine. I would agree. I mean, so, you were talking about you're talking about the guy, the lead that just called on your listing, right?
Yeah.
And his concern is, where's the price going to go, right? And there's something to be said about playing with people's kind of playing with their emotions a little bit, right? And I don't know what that house is listed at, but I'm going to just make up numbers for the sake of argument, right? If it's listed at 900,000, but okay, that was pretty good guess then. So it's listed at 950, and let's say realistically, it's going to sell for, $1,050,000 or $1.2 million, but his budget's $1 million. Then, who cares? Of course he's going to like it.
Like there's comparables in that area that I would say realistically it's worth in and around, like, from what I've looked at from homes yesteryear. Now it could sell for 1.1, right? But I could also argue that it could also only sell for $1 million, right? So I think it's not us underpricing homes, it's us allowing a home to have the largest target audience to ensure we're getting the most people to the property to do right by our clients.
Well, yeah, you're right. I mean, we talked about this in the past about the listing low strategy, and I think we both agreed it's certainly not my favorite strategy, and I think you agreed at the same time that it's not. But we're forced to do it, right? So, and again, for those that didn't catch that episode, we're forced to do it because buyers have been trained right now, either through themselves or through their agents, that properties will sell $150,000 over asking, and again, for those that again aren't as familiar with the real estate market, let me stress, and for all those, like, I'm going to call it shady for lack of a better term, because I think that they honestly are duping the public. For those that are hearing these kind of shady realtors saying, being like, I sold for $200,000 over asking, et cetera, and making it seem like, wow, they're so good. Keep in mind that they listed $200,000 below market value, right? If we're in a regular real estate market and you could list a property at $1 million and all the comps are saying it's $1 million, everything that there's been 5 other sales in the area in the last, like, call it 2-3 weeks that have sold for $1 million, and you sell for $1.2 million, okay, that's something to write home about. Mm-hmm. But if you list that property at $800,000 and sell for $1 million, and you run around telling people you sold for $200,000 over asking, like, that's sleazy marketing, and as far as I'm concerned, right? That's intentionally duping the public. Seth Godin has I can't remember what his book is, but it was like all marketers are liars, right? Because you're trying to bend, you're trying to bend the numbers or the stats to portray what you want it to do, right? If you don't tell the whole story, you can it's kind of a one-sided story, right? You can paint someone to be the awful guy, but when you hear the other side of the story, all of a sudden it's the narrative changes a little bit, right?
When you are looking at properties, so this is going out to everybody listening right now. Say you're planning to put an offer in on a home, like, so just to understand, when we sell something, it goes from for sale to potentially, if somehow you got some conditions, to sold conditional, to pending, to closed. And what I want to educate you on right now is that pending period, okay? Where, Andrew and I can see a home that has sold at X amount of value, but it hasn't closed yet. The people have not moved into the home. Then there's that intermittent period of, 18 to 45 to 75 days where the property has sold, but it's not actually showing where, if your realtor is sending you solds in the area, you're only seeing the things that have happened from when people have physically moved into the home.
Right.
So to get educated by your local realtor, and if you're ever in need of contact for one anywhere across Canada, you reach out to Andrew and me, and we'll be happy to put you in contact with a trusted realtor. You want to know those pending prices, because that's going to educate you on what's going on. Now, the other thing too is you might not find those true comparables, right? Those true comparables. Like the home that I'm listing in Brawny, there's not a lot of turnover, supply and demand, right? So then we have to take, we have to do all of our comparative market analysis. So we have to look at the time change, the time variable. We have to look.
And when you say the time variable, you're talking about like
time adjustment.
Yeah. So something sold 6 months ago, that's the next closest. Well, that's a very different real estate market, right? So you have to adjust to that.
Totally. So you're looking at time adjustments. You're looking at like upgrade adjustments. So like maybe you're pricing it, if it's a condo or a small townhome, you're pricing it price per square footage. So a basic, just the builder's model grade where it's no upgrades have been done might be at $500 a square foot. But lo and behold, this home over here has had the kitchens, the bathrooms, the flooring done. Well, this one might be selling at $700 a square foot. So in terms of understanding and having these better conversations, that's why we're doing the show, is to have better conversations, to get educated, is understanding all of those variables when it comes to, well, what is it really worth in this crazy market?
And ultimately, the market will decide what it's worth, right? And that's what I often tell, my sellers and even our buyers, but certainly our sellers, because they're like, what can you sell it for, right? What will it sell for? And the honest answer is, I don't know, right? And anybody that will tell you what it will sell for, again, they're just giving you some fluff. They're giving you what you want to hear. Right? Because at the end of the day, nobody can pinpoint exactly what a buyer is going to come in for. They're not going to say, I'm going to get 7 offers. The first offer is going to be at 1.1. The second offer is going to be at 1.15, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Then I'm going to go back and give them a second round. And then they're going to come back and we're ultimately going to sell for 1.3.
So this townhome that I just sold, right? And sorry to cut you off there.
Okay. I was just rambling.
No, but I love it when you ramble. Is like realistically, so we listed it for $569, right? Just a nice little townhome, condo, about 1,400 square feet, no upgrades, right? It was okay. We had to have some tradespeople go in to clean it up a little bit, right? Just to put a little bit of lipstick on her, okay? So lo and behold, preemptive offers came in. I was telling my clients, fair market value for your home, maybe 640, 650, we'd be lucky to get 660, right? So overnight, like, preemptive offers turned into offer night, right? Turned into competition where all of a sudden 7-8 offers come in. 2 of the offers right off the hop were over 700,000, right? So, people right now with the stress test, with everything going on, they're bidding really high. And I guess one of our fears that you and I have talked about is in the market conditions with stress tests is, well, what's the bank going to give you? If you're downsizing and you're in a good situation, this doesn't apply to you. If you're moving from your first place or you're a first-time buyer, then you need to be a lot more aware of this could come back to bite you in the butt.
What could come back and bite you in the butt?
If the appraisal comes back and it's significantly lower than what you bought the house for.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And so that you're right.
From a mortgage standpoint.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You're and those are those like very good, hard educational questions that need to be asked ahead of time, right? Like that's why I always like, and Ross, I know you have some go-to as well, but I always like working with our mortgage broker, right? It's scary for me in a market like this when someone either has their own mortgage broker,
yes,
or worse off, are just talking to the bank.
Please get a second opinion.
Right? Because, we've developed a relationship with our mortgage brokers where we can have, a candid conversation. And they're not saying like, oh, okay, well, these are all the person's finances. They're not telling us like inside information, that's privileged information between you and them. What they're doing is they're telling us with that, they can afford that, you can afford this and you can't afford that. And it's that confidence that we have, that trust element that has been built over the last, in our case, like 4 or 5 years, that, where we can go into an offer presentation with certainty because our mortgage broker told us this. And when they say this, I know they mean this.
Speed of trust. If you don't have that trust in that relationship and what your lawyer's telling you, your mortgage specialist, your real estate agent, we're all creating our power teams, right? And at the end of the day, like it's those relationships, it's that trust. If you trust someone, then things can happen a lot quicker and you have a lot more confidence in making those decisions that can affect you for the rest of your life.
And so going back to the appraisal element, right? That if you have that conversation, if we say, hey, listen, we can then call them up. We have them on speed dial when myself or Ross calls them, they answer. It's not like, I'm not sure who this person is, I'll answer it later. When I call my mortgage broker, I'm sure it's the same with you, Ross. She answers. And so I can be like, hey, listen, we're pushing the envelope here. Let's say, hypothetically speaking, the appraisal comes in 15 grand light. How will that put us? What kind of a situation would that put us in? Then then she can call the clients really quickly and say, if the appraisal ends up coming in 15 grand light, as an example, this is what it would look like for you. Are you guys still cool with that? Let your clients have that decision, rather than, and this happens far too often, and it's painful to see it happen. Somebody hires an inexperienced agent. It's a friend, that's been in the business for a little while, and so the assumption is that they're good and they're knowledgeable, or it's a colleague's spouse. You're like, well, I like my colleague, and so their spouse has got to be good, and there's no background information on it, right? Or heaven forbid, you hired a cheap agent to sell your house, and so you're just using them, right? Like there's all kinds of elements, but the fact of the matter is, they just go in like, well, they said pay this. What's your limit? Well, my limit's 1.2. Then give them 1.2. And there's no that conversation isn't happening.
Yeah.
Right. It's the deep conversation isn't happening because the agent oftentimes is more afraid of losing the deal than they are protecting their client.
I want to talk about something right now that's very powerful. Just to back up what you just said, it's time out of market. Okay. So there's a lot of people out there that they might be using their friend, or they might be using a part-time agent, or somebody that doesn't have a lot of experience. And I've had a few clients actually in the last year or two that I had a horrible experience with my realtor. I had to fire them. I want to work with you. And over this period, this has gone on 3, 6, 9, a year, 9 months, a year, right? And like the evaluation of homes that have come and gone, and they're telling me these horror stories about, well, there's this one home and we should have had it, but my client said to go in right at list, and then it sold for $10,000 over, and I was prepared to go at $20,000 over, and it didn't happen. Or they're not showing them a property the same day or day in. There's a reason you and I have a team. There's the people that asked me today, I'm showing 2 homes tonight. One of them was a phone call that just came in just before we started a podcast. And another guy emailed me at 1:00 last night in the morning. And I've got myself and another guy on my team showing him at a property at 7:00 tonight in Halton Hills, right? So the end of the day is we're dedicated to our clients in the sense of, I know, Andrew, you and your team, you're dedicated to your clients, that if you're busy, you're going to have Lisa or somebody else on your team that is available to go and show that property, so that it's a process. Could you put in a bully offer? But time out of market with, okay, so now it's 3 months later. Oh, you thought markets were going to slow down. Well, they're not. And now the house that you were looking at originally is $100,000 more. I mean, that might be an exaggeration, but I might be smack on. And it's
easily in this spring market.
In this market, right? I don't know about you, but I think that was pretty accurate, depending on obviously, where you're looking, but time out of market. And that's why, expectations, our experience working with a team. And these are things I know we're going to talk about in future episodes, but man, like you owe it to yourself to make sure you're learning from our experiences.
Yeah, there's you touch on a lot of really good points there. Especially like the time out of market. We've had this conversation quite a number of times in the past as well about how many houses we sell a year, and when someone is selling, like, I don't know, when there's someone's, well, okay, let's just look at the statistical averages of the Toronto Real Estate Board, right? If
one home.
If the assumption, okay, well, so again, we'll use relatively broad numbers here, but like if there's 65,000 real estate agents registered with the Toronto Real Estate Board, right? That's just Toronto Real Estate Board, right? Just for argument's sake, rather than kind of getting into every other real estate board and all that kind of stuff. But if we just look at TREB, right, because it's Canada's largest real estate board. So 65 members registered there. 30% or 30,000, oh crap, I'm messing up my numbers here. 30% do less than, are considered inactive, right? Because yes. they've done less than one transaction, right? So they haven't done a transaction. They're considered inactive.
Their license are parked, or they're just taking a breather from real estate. They're not an active realtor. They've parked their license with a brokerage. So yeah, 30%, or right. They're doing very, very little real estate, or they're just referring people out here and there and collecting a 25%.
Oh, even still, I suppose, I don't know. I think I guess if you referred it out, you just collect a commission check or something like that. But I think I don't know how many, registered agents that are up to date on their dues, right, are considered inactive from a volume perspective. Like you said, it's parked, would then refer it out. Oftentimes they would just pay the fee to be able to collect the I don't know, arguably if you're in the GTA, $10,000 at the minimum in commission, right? So anyways, then it was, I think it was 53% do less than 3 transactions, right? Per year. And then I think it was 85% do less than 10 transactions a year. Right. So if you're looking at it, so, let's just say you just kind of average that out and say, okay, someone's going to do five deals a year. Right. That's less than obviously 2 a month, or less than one every 2 months is what I'm trying to say. Right. Mm-hmm. One every 2.5 months or something like that at best. And whether that's a purchase or that's a sale. And where is it in that market? Because that they're just doing a deal anywhere that comes their way. So they're driving to, Pickering on the one end, and then they're doing a deal down in Hamilton on the other end. And then
car will travel.
Right. Exactly. But the point that I think we're trying to stress here is that if you're in time out of market, if you're not in the market, like you're not doing listing presentations, you're not doing offer presentations, right? You're not out showing houses and following how many offers were on each house. And, what did that house ultimately sell for? Even if you didn't bid on it, right? You're like, okay, we saw the house. We're now in the system. We're getting updates on how many offers there were as they come in. And then ultimately you see, what did they sell for, the next day, right? Oh, wow, that sold for that, or, oh, that sold for less than I thought it was going to, or, whatever the case may be. If you're not in the workplace, if you're not doing it on a daily basis, boots on the ground, then, okay, you can jump on and you can look at stats and you can say, okay, well, that house sold for this and that house sold for this. I kid you not, it's a far cry from actually being in it. Mm-hmm. Right? To be like, yeah, I was in that house. Oh, that house sold like that. That house reeked of cats. Right? Or there was a heavy smoker. Or yeah, the pictures looked wonderful. It was staged, but there was globs of caulking everywhere. It was a DIY special. And once you got in it, it was like, oh, geez. Right? That you can't, like, pictures don't show that. And then how many friggin' pictures? There's only like 6 pictures and they're all outside, or there's like, they're like, it's like a 1991, like handy cam, thing, like brutal.
I couldn't agree more. Like, there's a lot of times where there's some amazing photographers out there and they make the homes look spectacular. Right.
Well, there's that element too.
And then there's a lot of times where the homes, you're like, wow, I'm really glad I came to see this. This looks a lot better in person. If you're over analyzing the market too, and you're looking for that deal, and you're going back to that one home where, oh, this home, like, it was listed for $999. Oh, it sold for $996, right? And you're going back and you're like, I want that deal. Time out of market. Don't do that. You gotta play the game. And like you said, it's a process. So contact your local realtor, whether it's Andrew Roach and the Roach family real estate team up in Milton and the surrounding areas, or Ross Bridges and the real estate team down in the Oakville, Burlington market. We are here to support you. And if it's somewhere else in Canada, we'd love to put you in contact with a trusted real estate agent at any time. But expectations, guys, just before we end, where we started this show, is be kinder to yourself and really respect yourself, and knowing that, like, life is hard, and ask yourself, what are you doing right, not what are you doing wrong. Like, it's very easy to be hard on yourself, and to just, all I'm saying is, everybody out there, just love yourself a little bit more.